Power Spike is brought to you by Trolley Sour Bright Crawlers, the multi-flavored sour gummy worms that want nothing more than for you to chew their delicious sour heads and bodies into pieces. Y'all, we're here. One more match to go in the LOL esports calendar. Dgon along with Monty and Dom. I am in the waiting room of hell, basically. I'm still at the venue right now.
I've got my delicious gold ale instead of the golden road, and it's going to taste exactly like JDG's tears,
Oh, geez.
This one didn't cost $16 million either, Is it quite reasonably priced?
I mean, I would assume
Korean craft beer.
I would assume T1 paid more than $16 million to Kanavi for that game number 4. So who's the real winner? Kanavi,
I don't know.
You see, the thing is about Kanavi, now that he's gotten his military exemption from the Asian Games, he can come back to Korea and not have to go, right? He doesn't have to try and get resident status somewhere to dodge the military. There's not going to be any Chinese residential status or green cards. He can just come home a hero now. He could just come home a hero.
Yeah, he is a Korean hero.
He's a hero. He's a Korean hero. He's a Riot hero as well. He saved the finals. It would have been very, very boring and pretty sold out if T1 did not win. So that was a pretty huge.
Who is more of a Korean hero, Kanavi or Tarzan, Dom?
Oh, I mean, it depends. It depends. I think that Kanavi is more of a hero because Tarzan was really just applying for his military exemption during the series. So there's more reason why Tarzan would run it down. Kanavi just did it out of just pride for Korea. So that to me is more heroic, I would say.
Dom, it's been a tough road here, right? I mean, again, the WEIBO LNG.
Yeah, but I mean, to be honest,
WEIBO and BLG and now T1 in the finals. That's a tough week.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's literally just the worst possible results for me, and OMG's disbanding. But yeah, I think that the one thing that I
I'm sorry for your loss.
It is what it is. It is what it is. I'm on my way out of the shit anyway, so we'll go out with a fucking bang. But I think the worst thing about it is that people can't accept the upsets for being upsets, the fact that T1 elevated their level of play. The way that people just view it as that is that this is just inevitable, that WEIBO and T1 were just clearly the best teams the whole time, and that T1 was the best team in LCK, which is just not accurate. And I feel the main thing that needs to be done is actually realizing what T1 has done to cover their flaws and how they've actually elevated their level of play.
What, you don't like that Faker only plays 2 champions? It's technically 3, but really just 2.
No, I mean, I like that he plays 3 champions. What I don't like is the idea that so for example, if Gen G played against T1 tomorrow, who would you have in a best of 5?
Gen G.
Gen G 3-0'd them in finals.
Yeah, I'd have Gen G.
I would have T1. I think T1 is playing way better League right now. I think that they've completely solved the meta. And when I think about when T1 was strongest this entire year, I think of Spring Split. I think of when they were playing all the AD carry supports. They were playing Caitlyn, Kalista, Twitch, Jhin, Varus, Ashe. They were playing all those, and they were just smurfing on every single team in LCK. They're winning every game in 20 minutes. And now we're back to that meta. This is the version of T1 that was the best Korean team. So I think that this is actually just it's proof of what can happen in a patchless cycle. Because if you think about just the one patch that we've been on, we went from it being Alistar is mega OP. First pick Alistar every fucking game. There's no counters to it. It's all you can do is pick Rel into it, and it's a losing matchup. We went from that to okay, maybe you can play some Senna Tom, to no, 80 carry supports are now just back, and all the rage supports are considered mega OP right now. So I think that the progression has been really interesting to see overall the world.
The downfall of Alistar was that Fnatic final pick Alistar into the Caitlyn Lux. That was the beginning of the end.
Yeah, for sure.
But I do think this is a point that I've made for a long time about patching in League of Legends, which is that you actually don't need patches to shake up the meta. Pro players are going to figure things out if you give them a long enough time. And all the nephews, of course, love to argue with me on this. And then I remind them that Brood War hasn't had a patch in 20 years. 20 years. And it's still a game that was played professionally. And It's not as big, obviously, as it used to be, but it was huge for like 10 years after they never had a patch again. And yeah, you can change up the maps, and that does make a difference. You can rebalance the game through the maps, but a lot of the meta innovations were, seminal professional players. Like we talk about how Savior basically changed the ZVT matchup. But that was 5-6 years after the last patch of Brood War. So the pros will figure it out if you give them a long enough time. And that's what I think is very exciting about Worlds. And it is, though, surprising. I do agree with you, Dom, to see a meta change this intense.
Yeah, especially when you think about like the teams that are doing it. Like if T1 was just playing this meta and they were just dominating everyone with it, I think that would be a different thing than like all 4 teams that were in semifinals completely changed their prios when it comes to bot lane picks. Like all 4 teams went to playing ranged bot laners, like playing Ashe and all this type of stuff bot lane. So I think that's the biggest change to me, is not just that one team has like solved the meta, it's that all 4 teams were like, no, whatever else is just completely unplayable. Like we're playing like Senna support into Ashe, we're playing, Ashe and fucking Caitlyn, Kallista's coming out. Like they're just all playing ranged bot laners now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what we learned from the last series too is the top lane meta as well. The Shy trying to bend things to make it work, and that carried over to today, where Rumble into Aatrox. Rumble won it yesterday. The Shy cooked the fuck out of Bin, and then Zeus goes super ham on 369 to kick things off. So like the meta evolving and allowing multiple champions to be played and different types of team comps to be played works. But going back to Monty's original point, we've only seen 2 champions from Faker plus Silas.
And Silas, but it hasn't been good or frequent, right? And they keep banning Nico themselves, so we'll just never know if he can still play it or not, I guess. But
I mean, I think that says enough, right? Like if they're banning Nico every single game, I assume that they're just not going to play Nico, period.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he'll play into Xiaohu. Xiaohu's looking a little bit questionable.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think Zhao is looking questionable, but I just still don't think that they'll play Nico. I think they just locked that ban, and they have no reason to really change it, I don't think.
Yeah, they've proven that there's enough moving pieces around top and bot that unless someone literally spends like all those bans on the mid lane, they're going to feel comfortable with Orianna, Azir, and then maybe Silas. So we'll see what happens. Let's take a look at some of those semifinals. Going back to yesterday's matchup, it was BLG up against WEIBO, and pretty big The Shy fan group that came out here for WEIBO, as well as his own performance. It was reminiscent. I think someone said 2023 The Shy has left the chat, and 2018 The Shy has entered the room or something like that. And he reverted back to a form, Dom, that I think is why it's so infuriating to be a fan of The Shy, because he can be this fucking good, and then he just isn't until he is.
I don't know if you know that, like, because it was literally just like years of like average level play to bad play. Like he was literally like ruining series for years up until this. And then I think the most crazy thing is, if you think about Bin historically, like Bin has been somebody that's always rose to the occasion. Like he was never the reason why his team was losing any of these super big series. Like maybe you could argue that his champion picks would limit his team in the way, but if you look at his actual level of play, he's always been somebody who's been really good, even going back to his first finals that he played, the world finals that he played with Suning, where he's getting like a pentakill on Fiora. He's laning well. But Bin actually just got outclassed, which is really crazy. And it seems like the Shy actually has an advantage here because he has an answer to the Aatrox that other people don't really have. I mean, the Yone into Aatrox looked fine from Zeus. Like it looked like a solid pick, but the Graves into Aatrox actually looked hard winning when the Shy played it. So
well, Zeus has been playing some Graves in solo queue, so I wouldn't say that it's off the table for Zeus as well, but it certainly makes the matchup a bit more interesting because, clearly Zeus was really interested in blind picking the Aatrox for much of this series, and I don't think that's going to be the same option that he might have if he goes up against the Shy, right? Especially because the Rumble's in the mix as well.
Yeah, I think Rumble's in the mix. I think the main thing is that 369 is not somebody that heavily counterpicks top lane. So generally, that means that JDG is not going to be able to get a huge advantage in top lane when it comes to counterpicking. The same way that with the Shy's current form and what he's shown, they could potentially get. So it's going to dissuade 369, or it's going to just dissuade Zeus from picking the Aatrox blindly as freely as he did into 369.
I think something else to note from that last series yesterday with BLG and WEIBO is how terrible the bot lane was until they needed to be clutch. And then they showed up huge there for the Shy. And even in the interview, the Shy said, hey, I know you had a very tough time. Thank you for, toughing it out. Is that a question that is on your mind? Well, before we look forward, let's look back on it. It was pretty on elk sided for most of that series there, Monty.
Yeah, I think that we saw some good adaptations in the previous round from Billy, and they certainly looked like they had a lot of kind of answers to what was going on when we saw them, take the Varus Ashe and then try and counter it with the Callista Caitlyn in the next game. And that actually saw some decent success. But as Dom said earlier, the Graves matchup in the top lane and the Shy's play really did hamstring them from like snowballing that into a victory. So they seem really flexible and really prepared, even busting out the Quinn, which is something that I've been talking about, not into the Jax, but into the Renekton, that I wish Keen would have done earlier in this tournament. Didn't work out because they didn't play it very well, but I like that we're seeing a lot, at least from the side of WEIBO, a lot of willingness to play some of these less orthodox champions. And I do appreciate Crisp's Renata Glask. However, that has been Crisp's only champion that he's really performed on at this tournament. So I still have a lot of questions about this roster. Clearly the Shy cannot be, counted on to be this good every single series. Zhao has been a bit suspect, and Crisp off Renata Glask has been actually just downright terrible at times. Overall, I think this series was pretty significantly lower level than the semifinal we just watched between JDG and T1. And I would have been confident after watching that best of 5 that either T1 or JDG would come into the finals as a pretty heavy favorite.
Yeah, what do you got, Dom? What do you think about that series?
Yeah, I mean, I think the series definitely looked lower level from WEIBO and BLG, but I don't really care too much about that because there is a long break and it's just going to come down to what team shows up on the day. I don't think WEIBO is playing on such a low level that if they play their A game and T1 plays their B or C, for example last year they did versus DRX, that somehow T1 will still win. So I think that this is the thing that happens in tournaments. We've had it for the last 3 years that the semifinals is considered the real finals, but you never really know what the adaptations are going to be because we've seen such big adaptations just from quarterfinals to semifinals, right?
Sure.
So,
oh, yeah.
I think prep is actually huge coming into the finals. Prep can be absolutely huge, and then also side select could be huge. I think you really have to see what the teams come out with because WEIBO played a really good. They prepped really well. They came out really strong in game number 1. The Rumble Nico with Bel'Veth, I thought was really interesting. I really liked it. I remember when I saw the Bel'Veth pick, I was like, damn, this is actually one of the best Bel'Veth games you can have because you have one of the strongest top lane champions and one of the strongest mid lane champions for a level 6 fight on the same team, which pretty much guarantees you Herald, which completely transforms Bel'Veth from being a minion to being super OP for a long period of the game. So I think a lot of it is going to come down to prep because they have a long time to prep for one series.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next series that just completed here. T1 taken down. JDG. The golden road is ended. The best team that was ever created turns out to not be the best team ever created.
They still might be the best team ever created.
They still might be the best team. I think actually, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I think it's actually a more interesting topic of discussion now, if I'm being honest.
Sure. Sure.
I still think you can make the argument that JDG is the best LoL team ever in a given calendar year because nobody's done the golden road.
They've lost one best of 5 all year.
Yeah.
They lost one best of 5 the entire year. I think that people generally overrate Worlds super hard. I saw it last year with Zika. When Zika won Worlds, he was suddenly the best player in LCK, and it was the fuck happened to the rest of the year? What happened to Keria? What happened to Chovy? What happened to the the best players like from the entire year. So I think that like JDG, I don't think we've seen a team that's played consistently as well as JDG this year. Like even if T1 wins Worlds, like T1 has won 1 out of the 4 tournaments that they competed in. And I don't like the idea that it's like, oh, they just weren't trying in the other tournaments or whatever like cope take you have to like try to make it seem
terrible
like
take. I don't think anyone has that taped on. But
I mean, what
I
is
agree.
the take
I
then?
agree.
What is the take then?
No. I don't think it's this year's T1 is better. I think you're comparing this year's JDG to some of the best teams that have ever existed, like
who?
G2 in 2018.
Yeah.
Right. The SKT
I don't
2015. I think because I was talking about it with Jat and being like, hey man, who else is in those rosters? But a lot of the time you're missing an MSI win or the roster changed midway through or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's the issue that you end up having with those types of teams. Like T1 2015 is like they're not even playing with like Faker in finals. Like Izuhun is getting time. They have like Tom subbing in. Like it's not a win where you're like, oh, this was just the team from the beginning. Like
yeah,
I think that
Samsung White in 2014 as well. People forget
exactly.
that they lost 2 LCK
Blue,
playoffs to Samsung Blue. They never actually won a season of champions domestically in Korea.
Yeah.
And then also you have to think about level of competition. Also, like if you compare 2019 G2 and you compare their competition in Europe to like JDG's competition in the LPL, and like the MSI win was like MSI this year was way different than other MSIs because it's 2 Chinese teams, 2 Korean teams.
Yeah,
I think that's like how you get to the point where, I mean, JDG still could be like the best team in a calendar year, like Monty said.
100%. You know what this feels like, guys? This feels like the college football playoffs. Like you got like a mid-major team that's undefeated compared to like a 2-loss like Alabama or something like that. Not even 2-loss, 1-loss Alabama. Like,
look,
in this case.
It's really hard to maintain relevancy across all the patches in a given year, especially with the, how close the teams are at the top. It is surprising, I think, that JDG didn't take this home. And had we seen the meta we started this tournament could persist, I think JDG wins 100% this matchup versus T1. It's only this wacky-ass meta shift that basically took T1 into a perfect time warp from earlier this year and also last year that got them this far. But here's an argument for you. One of the things that has benefited T1 has been that they have played as a group of 5 players for this long, which allowed them to pull from a very deep bag of tricks that reaches back to last year, some of these compositions that they were running. And that has been really effective for them. Meanwhile, while JDG has been a spectacular team, they don't have necessarily the same synergy across the same number of iterations of team compositions because they were built for this 1 year, and a bunch of them are going to be free agents now. So it's going to be hard to keep the band together.
Yeah. When I think about in a elimination game like this, you have to have the conversations, where does our draft resources go to, and AKA where does it take away from? And I think just having that trust within everyone, on T1 definitely helped them out. For you guys at home, though, let us know who your favorite, your best team
Monty.
in the world is.
Monty, so I don't have to deal with this. Can you explain the difference between patch changes and meta shifts? Like, what is a meta? Because I think people are extremely lost on this idea.
Okay, so a meta shift doesn't necessarily have to be a patch change. It is the perceived view of the best way to win the game at any given point in time. And in League of Legends, that would mostly, because we don't have map changes, right? Like we would in some FPS titles or in RTS titles. It would revolve around mostly team compositions and champion priority, right? And what we've seen is that there has been, so I think, in my opinion, and Dom, you can opine on this, obviously, there have been 2 really big factors, I think, over the course of this tournament. One of which has been that we've seen an increasing priority on range advantage. And so that has led, and poke advantage, basically. And that has led to us seeing more range supports as opposed to engage supports, as we've seen at the start of this tournament. And also, even the double 80 carries, et cetera, right? The other thing that has been true is that just lane priority has gone up significantly. It doesn't feel like there is a graceful way to lose a lane, really, and come back into the game at this point in time. And so the lane counter picks have given Prio, like lane push Prio, very large significance, which has then led to early objectives, particularly early Drakes, which then leads to early Drake souls and power spikes that are based off of like, you know, one item lethality power spikes or divine sunderer power spikes. And because you're fighting for a soul at 22 minutes into the game, this is now changed the way a lot of teams are thinking about the way to play League of Legends, right?
Yeah. And I don't know if this is like something that is necessarily going to be correct for the finals, right? Because I think what we saw in some of these games is that you could actually get through the lane with a perceived like weaker lane. Like the Bard picks for Keria were huge, you know, like they essentially dodge like the final lane where you're playing into Zeri Lulu. Sure, you go down some CS, but if your pick is good for the game, maybe that's enough. Also, the Ashe picks didn't seem to work super well in this series, right? Both Ashe support picks, the Ashe ended up losing. So maybe in finals they start reverting to a little bit more of the like, okay, it's okay to lose lane by like 10 CS or something. You know, maybe you just deny parts of like the Ashe Veris, or you deny the Callista, and that changes how like highly you rate the other champion. So that's what's left to be seen, because I mean, it's not that there is like a godlike way to play the game that has now been solved. We've seen that people have swung too far in multiple different directions throughout this tournament. For example, the Xayah, like 2 weeks ago, the take that all the players had was Xayah is OP. It doesn't matter if you play the things that are counters to Xayah. Xayah paired with the right champions is too OP because it spikes too hard on 2 items, and you're able to like secure objectives. You're able to like win most lanes, and that's going to be what gives you the like value from the pick. And essentially makes it uncounterable. Now, Xayah Prio has completely fallen off. No one really wants to play Xayah because it loses really hard to things like Varus Ashe lanes and, you know, Callista plus range support, or like Senna lanes. Like, people don't want to play this lane anymore. So that's one pick going from B1 and like being a must ban to being completely out of the meta, essentially, over the course of 1 week where nothing changed. So I think that there's still iterations that could happen. Like, I don't think Xayah is a dead champion. Maybe they change back and they're like, oh, if we get a Rakan, Xayah Rakan is super OP. And versus a player like Crisp, I don't know if Rakan will have the same prio in being banned as it did versus Missing.
Yeah, well, again, you know, going back to just the original point here, and I'm the one that tries to do my best to explain these kind of basic concepts, remembering we have new people in the ecosystem. Meta shifts don't equal patch changes. It's just perceived power of what is being played right now.
Yeah.
And I think my example for that would be game 1 when they locked in Jhin. You're like, ugh, like that's not normal. But Jhin has very powerful auto attacks, and before people build armor,
Was that
you
Ashley
can
Gang?
use it. Oh, yeah, Ashley, you want to say hi? Come here.
Hi, Ashley.
You're in. All right, they said hi. Hi. Chat, say hi to Ashley. All right.
I like
I'll see you later.
Dgon's just with the cameos in the background.
Yeah, people have been walking by. It was funny because a lot of the non-Korean media members left first, and then like everyone else was sitting and waiting, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, interesting. Yeah, I was just noticing. Let's see. Going back to okay, so I think those are both of our series there. Is there any final thoughts on this T1 and JDG matchup here that we wanted to clarify?
I think the main player that I've been looking at that's had the biggest change is Owner. I think Owner is not getting like highlighted enough. Like, Faker's obviously like he's the GOAT. No one's ever contested that he's the GOAT, and he's having like really good plays. So like Faker is getting all the shine, but I think Owner's the level that he's played at compared to where he was in summer is such a big change that I think it could completely shifted the way that T1 has existed, because now it just feels like they have no weaknesses, whereas before Owner had a ton of weaknesses. So I think that his ability to like really get good at the Rel, the Maokai, these types of more like supportive picks, I think has been huge for T1 being able to like just elevate their level of play in general. So I would just say shout out to Owner. I mean, he's somebody who I've like saying praises of for a while because I played against him a lot in solo queue, and he's a fucking beast in solo queue, and he was here in NA last year. I thought he was like a really special player. I thought he was better than like Kanavi, Peanut, like the other junglers that I was playing against. And I feel like he's just always had like some issues when it came to connecting with his team, like covering certain waves. But when it comes to individual like mechanical ability, he's next level. I mean, he essentially won game 3 flashing an Ash arrow and engaging directly on Talia and missing. So, I mean, I think that this guy is really fucking good, and he was playing really fucking bad before. But that's kind of what you need when you have a team that's making a run. You need the players that are the weak links to really show up. For example, last year with Pioshik, right? With DRX, it was the same thing where Pioshik was having a pretty rough year. I mean, he's getting subbed constantly for Juhan towards the end of summer. And then he like finds the correct meta for him. He's playing the Kindred all the time. He's effective on the Hecarim, and suddenly the team is a way different team. So I think that Owner is actually a fucking beast.
World's Pioshik. Well, that's a perfect setup for me later on. My one interview for today, the last interview for one-on-ones you get to have here at Worlds, it's with Owner. And so I had the opportunity to chat with him about this match, what it means to
ask him about the rel engage, man. That's what I want to hear about is what the call was.
I did.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Okay, great. I look
So
forward to
the
seeing
answer
that
is
then.
there. Yeah, he'll have that answer there. Okay, let's move on over to our, I guess that was kind of like an amoebus subject for our first topic. So let's get to our big topic of the day. It's time for Devoured. And, it's really tough when you are, let's see, how do I want to get there? It's really tough when you have such high expectations, just like JDG had. Golden Road, they'd won everything. And so it's tough when it lets you down. But you know what doesn't let you down? The taste of Trolley Sour Bright crawlers. We can't get enough of their soft and gummy textures and absolutely love their surprising flavor combinations. Thanks to our friend over at Trolley. Let's get into it. Devoured is JDG. All right, go ahead, Monty.
It's all, these sour bright callers are even somehow more delicious than T1 actually making the finals, which is very exciting to fellow Korean enthusiasts.
Especially not delicious. Yeah. T1 making the finals is just
you're sour,
Trolley
I'm
gummy
sweet
worms.
on it. So, together we're one
sour
bright color.
taste better than dog. Thank you, Monty, for the promo.
No. Hey guys.
Great.
You've got to have some sour so that you can have some sweet.
Exactly.
There you go, right?
You and I make one sour bright collar, Dom. That's how it works.
Nice.
And by the way, no matter how this match turned out, you and I would still make a sour bright collar, right? It's half Monty, half Dom, sour and sweet. I would have been sour. It's fine. It works. It works either way. Maybe it'll reverse for the final if WEIBO wins.
I mean, if WEIBO wins, it still feels pretty bad. Like, to be honest, I mean, it's literally my least favorite LPL team versus my least favorite team in the world. So that's the world's final. There's no winning.
I know. Look, this is my coping because of KT. Okay, why couldn't KT just beat JDG? That's what I actually wanted to have happen, but we can't have nice things. So nobody, Dom, neither you and I get nice things. Nobody gets nice things, really.
Yeah, I get nice things like at MSI every year. That's pretty much where my nice things end. I get nice things at like MSI, and then it just goes downhill.
I was sitting with Atlas, and the first thing he said after, like, as game 2 was going bad, he goes, "Hey, I was casting, so I don't really remember, but KT won game number 1, right?" And so, Atlas is super fucking funny.
He's like, actually, just about Atlas, he's a lovely human being, but if you guys don't know, he's actually like surprisingly low key in person and kind of understated. Which is not how he is on cast at all, but he's rather quiet in real life.
Yeah. You know who was really quiet during these semifinals?
Nice.
All the LPL casters. I didn't hear anything from them. Maybe it's just because the LPL is just doomed this year or something, but I didn't hear one word from LPL casters all semifinals.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's almost like Riot didn't hire any of them to be on the cast. It was really weird.
Wait, really? Oh, okay.
I thought that's what you were saying, Dom.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying. I mean, I'm just saying three LPL teams in semis and not one LPL caster.
I know, man. It's another, big Riot W. We could have literally had an all LPL semis, and we would have just had nobody even on the desk representing the LPL.
And you could have had an all LPL finals, and finals cast is already decided, or before semifinals even starts. So you would have no LPL casters there as well.
Fabulous.
Is what it is.
But Riot really
Dagda spent 3 years in LPL. I just want to throw that one out there.
I love Dagda. Dagda's doing a great job.
Good. Okay, good. All right, I was about to be like, Monty, that was scary.
Yeah, he didn't do it this year, right?
He didn't do it this year. That's it.
Which is why people leave the LPL for that's why Ox went to LCK. That's why Dagda went to LEC. Like, if you want to up yourself in the casting game, you need to just go to LEC, LCS, or LCK. Yeah, you'll never get a shot on these events.
We call it promotion through demotion,
I think it's a valid point. I wish we had an LPL caster here. Specifically, it's tough, right? Because you have Flowers and you have Dracos on the call for semifinals.
No, you just need an analyst so you can put them on the desk. I mean, this is bad even by Riot standards. Typically, when we've had, all LCK or LPL versus LCK, they'll at least have somebody on the desk and then just shaft them on the actual cast. But we don't even get them on the desk this time. That's what's so crazy. That's what's so crazy to me.
They're just like, you covered LPL 8 years ago? Yeah, get the fuck on the desk. It's good enough.
It's also just wild.
That shit anyway.
It's also just wild because there are people like Nymera who have been on the LEC previously who are now on LPL who you would think they could just use on the desk. My mind just absolutely shatters when I start to think about the reasoning behind this.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, another team that didn't show up and wasn't all that loud was JDG, and that's why they got devoured, which is why we're steering this back on topic. JDG gets ran over 3-1. I think one thing I did say, and I'll give this as a little preview, was the play made in game 3 where Faker fucking gets 6 years of trauma off his chest onto Ruler with the Flash Azir play and shoving it off. Up until that point, it was doomed. It was quiet. It was a Busan library. It was pretty, again, as a neutral / kind of T1, I wanted to see T1 win fan. It was fascinating to hear how quiet it was until that play happened. And I was just talking to Jat saying, so what do we do? Do we just turtle here and hope for an Elder Dragon being down 5K? And then bam, in that one moment, it was over. Did you feel like up until that point, Dom, they were going to win that match and win that series, given that was one of the closest matches they had?
I felt like during that game, the third Drake fight going really bad. It's weird, right? Because when you play these high level games, there's just a back and forth. JDG should 100% win until third Drake. They have a massive advantage in third Drake. They completely outrange them. Owner finds a good engage. He breaks the game there. Then T1 should automatically win the game from that point. And assuming perfect play, which obviously is never happening. Then T1 get this free Baron, but then they overchase onto 369, and then suddenly they throw their entire lead, right? So now the game is back to even, and then JDG comes out on top in a fight. But I think that game was still pretty close. I think that trading Baron for Soul, it's JDG was just playing to end the game with that. The reason they were playing so aggressively is with Baron, they felt like they had to end the game before the buff expires. So Knight buys Shadow Flame there, third item, instead of just going Death Cap. He didn't have money for it. He's like, all right, this is my last base, buying Shadow Flame. We're going to try to end the game here. And then Ruler gets caught by Faker, which is also possible because of the Cloud Soul movement speed. Just the passive movement speed is the reason he's able to rotate up so fast and get onto Ruler. So I don't know. I think it was interesting how the game progressed, but I didn't feel like that was a super one game for JDG. It didn't feel like an 80-20 situation. It felt like maybe 55-45 for them. I could see T1 stalling it out, being down 2-3k gold, and then winning the Elder fight. I think that's a realistic situation there. I think game 4 was actually more in theory over than game 3 was from JDG side. But I mean, JDG had advantages in game 3 and 4. Like theoretically, they could have won either of those games. And then
Monte,
Konami just ran it down mercilessly.
Monte, what'd you make of the close matches in the series?
Look, I agree. I think that had T1 just tried to play more conservatively after taking the first Baron in game number 3, then it would not have gotten to the point where we got to see the faker playmaker play on the Azir. That fight was extremely good, though, and I really appreciate the decisiveness of T1 throughout this series. Like, even in game 2 that they lost, they really kept trying to make plays until the bitter end, even though it was pretty doomed. Like, that was a long game, but it never felt like T1 was going to win that game at any point in time, really. No. It was actually a very clean, kind of slow Python-esque chokeout of T1 by JDG. And I thought it was very well played by them. When we get to game 4, I think that's where you start to see a little bit of desperation creeping in from T1 again, especially as Ruler starts to get huge on this area in the early game. That's when it feels like they're really flipping the switch into Hullbreaker on the Yone and trying to push that advantage really hard. It also felt a little bit like, Owner definitely couldn't have the same presence that he had in previous series on the J4 because of the Bel'Veth, and that really limited, I think. When you have that limitation on Jarvan's early game agency, it just feels really bad to be the Jarvan team. And so I have to say, pretty concerned about what was going on in that game for T1. But the Bard pick ended up being super good. But a lot of it was just, they could have, I think JDG could have just continued to, press at objectives, press at Drake, and then snowball the game from there. But Kanavi on the Drake fight ended up accidentally taking that Bard portal, which chunked him out, which meant that they couldn't contest the Drake. That puts them down to Drakes in that game. That's a really rough situation to be in at that point in time. And then you obviously get another Drake fight where Kanavi is terribly positioned and just waltzing around into Sand Soldiers. Knight then misses his shockwave, Faker glides out of the shockwave range, even though he doesn't have flash up. And so you just kind of sombrero it, and then Kanavi dies. And man, it felt really, really bad that last game because Ruler never really was able to have a normal team fight. It felt like, and he got caught.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the game there, I mean, there was 4 insane mistakes from Kanavi in the same game. And if you play a champion like Bel'Veth, you play it to snowball. You play it because in a game like this, the whole idea is that you're going to have advantage on Heralds. You're going to be able to get 2 Heralds and you're just going to run the game. You're going to be so far ahead that they just can't play. You're going to have 5-6K gold lead, where it doesn't matter if your champion doesn't have the better abilities. Your champion just has more gold and you can just beat them with that. The 4 mistakes, I mean, he took the portal into the mid turret, which is super bad.
That one was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he's completely fucking inting there. He just misclicked the portal blatantly. They lose Drake. He loses his HP. Then they he farms his jungle. They go to spawn Herald mid. That was actually the timer where Bard had no ult. So if they spawned Herald immediately, they would have been able to actually get mid turret without having to blow without having to blow anything, and then they would probably be able to just get Drake off that. Then when they do get the good fight, he takes his coral in the enemy turret and dies. So that's 2 mistakes right there. Then he has the biggest one, which is actually when he tries to dive tier 2 onto Guma, and he dies there and loses his flash and loses his form. An enemy team goes and gets a free Baron, which I think that kind of just loses the game when you are Bel'Veth and you lose control of objectives and you're down 1k gold. It's normally fucking doomed. And then his 4th one, when they actually get a minor HP win on the Drake fight, which is already it's such a doom scenario already. He goes in and he just gets autoed by Faker 4 times and dies. It was pretty egregious. If you're going Bel'Veth in a game like that and your whole draft is predicated on you performing, you have to just play better than that. It's not acceptable to have that level of a Bel'Veth game when your team is setting up so hard for you.
Monty, any final thoughts there before I move us on?
It felt like a gift to get Zeri that far ahead that early too. I mean, I've seen so many JDG games this year where Ruler gets in a skirmish in bot lane as Zeri and then gets 3 kills and then he completely runs the game. at that point in time, just takes it over, right? I've seen this a lot with JDG. And I will have to say, it was just really disappointing that we didn't get that moment here at Worlds, because it really felt like a quintessential JDG 2023 opportunity. And nothing ever came from it. One of the mistakes was Ruler's fault, but a lot of it was just never even being in a position to take advantage of this area, right? Because of everything else that was going on with Kanavi. And that's a big bummer. That is a bummer.
Finally, a player that we haven't talked about. Chat was asking. We haven't really talked about Knight too much, Dom. How did you feel like Knight did here in this matchup, and also in the series? We talked about the Sombrero in game number 4, but the Akali early on. How'd you feel?
I think the Akali game is just really hard to play. Like, with how far behind everything was, the Rumble is just getting completely fucked over the Rel early pathing. So I don't blame him too much for the Akali game. I don't think he had an insane series. I think his biggest mistake was probably that game 3 Talia play. If he was able to keep range, I think they just win that game automatically. And then game 4 is so ruined by Kanavi that it's very hard to throw blame other places. Faker ends up really big, but it's not like Knight played bad. It's very hard to play those situations as Orianna when your jungler is just dead in the beginning of the game. So I don't think he had a great series, but I don't think he had a horrible series either. I think that it just came down to Faker being better on the day, slightly.
I think Talia also, his Talia game was mostly quite good. He was hitting a lot of his WE combos. I do think it's weird the way he kind of played out the dragon fights, not using his E to prevent the Rel engage.
He's not going to even prevent that Rel engage if the Rel plays it properly, because the Rel flashed into him, right? So Rel is just going to flash WR and he'll be CC during it, but it's going to still go off.
It does prevent follow up though, and I still think that it was a bit odd. But I think most of the Talia game was actually pretty solid from him, and he has been a good Talia player for a long time. So I don't know. I think he's going to get overshadowed because of Faker's Azir engage in game number 3, which was obviously a extremely hype play. But I don't think the Knight is in particular the reason why they lost this series, right?
I don't think he was put in great situations, to be honest. There wasn't many opportunities for him to carry a game. He's playing champions that when he's playing Talia, you're playing a defensive champion, and he missed one timing, I guess, where he could have played it better defensively, but that's not a matchup where I think he's playing poorly at all. If you look at his conditions in the game, he's actually done better than what his conditions were supposed to have him at. And then when you look at game number 4, they were just that game just should be a win based off what happened, in the game. It should just be a win if Kanavi doesn't do that. So I think Faker didn't make many mistakes at all. I think he made what mistakes did Faker even make? I feel like he made
Baron
some
pit
mistakes.
At Baron, he went towards Ruler. He shorted his Azir.
Game number 2, I think Faker had some individual misplays, but it's misplays in a game that's doomed, which it's harder to make good plays in a game that's fucking doomed. So I don't even blame Faker for those misplays. It's you're trying to do more because you know that the game is 10% chance to win. So you're just going to do things that have a 20% chance of working out, for example. But yeah, I think that mid lane, it didn't come down to a difference of mid laner versus mid laner. Faker played well by playing well against other people. He didn't shit on Knight in the fights or something. He wasn't catching Knight there.
So I guess what I feel like I can extrapolate from what you're saying is the way that I feel or should feel about Knight is the same way I should probably feel about Ruler, where Ruler made a couple more mistakes, but it felt like Kanavi getting kind of punished, and also Kanavi making mistakes, and then Keria making plays around the map while Missing was not doing as much of that, made it seem like Ruler and Knight just never were put in position to do Ruler and Knight stuff.
Yeah, they were just losing. They were losing fights. They were just losing fights together. For example, in game number 4, if JDG completely snowballed the game, what are people talking about? Let's say they just completely cleanly snowball off what happened early. People are talking about Faker fucking up the follow-up onto Knight. He should be able to kill Knight there off the Bard Stun. It should be Bard Stun into Jarvan combo into Faker just one-shotting him, right? But Faker was slow, so Knight got his ult off, and that actually made the fight 2-for-1. if that just snowballs the whole game, then suddenly it's like the narrative completely changes, which I think that like when you look at like these one-off misplays, I don't think that that's what you're trying to define the series off of. You're defining the series off like 4 misplays in a row from Kanavi.
Right. And also you have to look at who the burden on carrying is and who's getting the resources. They hard funneled Ruler in the final game. Like they were swapping him into the top lane to get him more fucking plates. Yep. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so was it Knight's job to carry that game? No, they set Ruler up with the advantage that he had early and then continuously funneled gold into him. And he was not winning those fights. He was getting caught up.
I think it's more also what is Knight playing with, right? Like Knight is not playing an Orianna with a Rel on his team and a Rakan and like, or a Jarvan, Rumble, like these types of champions that are going to make it easy to like land a shockwave. Like normally Orianna is playing like, and this is what's happening throughout the tournament, is teams are starting to deny these combos. Orianna is playing with other things that will set up the Orianna Shockwave, because Orianna Shockwave is just a flashable ability. Like if you see the Shockwave wind up, you can flash it, you can react to it. So that's a game where his job is to be ahead in lane, in CS, have pressure, be able to move first, which he was able to do, and get the Bel'Veth ahead. And when the Bel'Veth gets ahead, the Bel'Veth is supposed to carry the game. The Bel'Veth failed to carry the game.
Yeah,
that's why it's on. That's why that game 4 is on Kanavi.
like
he's supposed to be the one that carries.
Yeah, he built Crown to protect Bel'Veth and Zeri. You know what I mean? Like that's his job.
And it's not a good Orianna game. Like it's not a good Orianna game if you just look at like what he's playing into. Like he's playing into Jarvan, which is good into Orianna. It's also good with Orianna, but it's good into Orianna. So there's a Jarvan in the game. He's the only immobile champion in the entire game, and he's playing into Bard. So the Bard is around him as well. Like he's playing into Shuffle. Yone is pretty good into him as well. Like that's not a good Orianna game. Like he's there to fulfill a very specific condition, and that condition is to play mid, like have prio early, play mid with some type of advantage, move first to Drake, move first to Rift Herald, and allow the Bel'Veth to start snowballing.
I like your example there. I'm going to bring this up because it's bothering me. J4 good with Orianna and J4 good against Orianna. In Pokemon, what element is it that like you're good, you're strong with and strong against? There's like one element. Is it like Ghost? Is it Psychic? I don't know. Sorry, I went off the rails there, but I just kind of was thinking. It just came off in my head. I think it's Ghost.
Dragon?
Or Dragon. Right. I think it's Dragon. Thank you, Chad. I knew. See, look, I know my audience. I knew that you guys would know it. And then lastly, we didn't talk about our boy in the top lane too much. 369 up against Zeus. Or obviously, game 1 didn't go his way. He got pretty much fisted. But then after that, how did you feel about his performance? And I guess taking into consideration everything, Dom, how did you feel about his performance?
I think it was slightly worse than normal. I mean, I think that 369 loses value if this is like the meta where like there's hard counter picks available. Game number 3, I think he played fine. Game number 2, I think he played well. Game number 4, he got counterpicked. I don't think his performance was like specifically bad. Game number 1 also, I think is like a when you review that game, you don't view it as like this was a Rumble problem. You view this as this was a prep problem. Like Rel took our Raptors and Red, and we had no idea that Rel started in our jungle. Like that is the problem, because when Rumble's playing his lane phase out, he has no TP, right? He's flashing Knight. And he's going to push that third wave. When he's trying to push third wave and he gets flashed on by Rel and he just gets one shot there, his game is fucked. Like his game is completely fucked at that point. Like he's laning then. When he comes back to lane, he's laning with Doran's Ring and Refillable Potion into Doran's Blade, Doran's Shield, and no Magic Mantle. That's what he's laning into. Like, and then his game is like no longer playable. So I wouldn't say that game is like is a problem where you just view the matchup. Like I'm always somebody when I'm looking at these types of games, I'm trying to look for like what was the point where the matchup shifted or what was like the issue. And if the issue wasn't just like, oh, this matchup is supposed to play out way differently and you just didn't know how to play your waves, then I'm not somebody who's going to immediately jump on that and be like, oh, well, it's just like he can't play Rumble. Like I'm going to look at how the fuck did this invade work? How does a jungler start in our jungle without us knowing? We at least need a ward, right? We at least need to know that he's there. And then there could be other problems, right? Like, let's say you know that he's on your red, but there's nothing that you can do to prevent what the next play is. Some champions, you don't get control of the wave early topside. So they can stack waves onto you and their jungler invades you and then they just dive you and the whole fucking game is fucked, right? Like, that's a possibility. Then maybe you start removing champions. But in this game specifically, you don't get to play Rumble after you die at level 2 and you're laning down 900 gold to an Aatrox.
I appreciate you breaking that one down, Dom. Like, oh, wave 3, don't know it's there. He's super fucked. That makes a lot more sense because everyone's just going to see the scoreline. Everyone's going to see the deaths and the solo kills, but they're not going to recognize when the mistake happened. So I appreciate that one. All right. Final words here on our team that attempted to walk on the golden road and ended up goldless, I would say, here, Monty.
I think it's really sad that we're almost certainly not going to see this team run it back next year. It was super expensive, as I said, $16 million to make this team, and all their contracts are up, and there's definitely going to be bidding for all of these extremely strong players. And a part of me is sad that they didn't make the golden road and become definitively the best League of Legends team of all time, although they, as we talked about earlier, they're still definitely within that conversation. But I wanted to see more of these guys. I wish there was double elimination again at this tournament, because I would really, really love to see them in the losers bracket at this juncture and have them at least take another stab, because it feels like it just feels deeply unsatisfying if you've been watching JDG all year and seeing how extraordinary they've been in the LPL playoffs and at MSI, to have this be their end, especially when, we're talking about WEIBO being in the finals right now. Feels bad.
I mean, it's the only tournament that if you play in a major region, it's the only tournament you play all year that doesn't have double elimination.
Yep. Which is insane.
Yep.
That's really sad that you play one tournament that doesn't have double elimination. You lose one best of 5, your whole year is over, compared to like other teams who got multiple different chances, right? Like other teams get to lose twice in every other tournament. Like, for JDG, I think it sucks. Yeah, and also it's like
they 3-0'd the Swiss stage too, right? I mean, Genji did, and they got eliminated in quarters. But it does leave a bitter taste in your mouth, and I think that we will look back on the WEIBO T1 series, and I think we will all want to have rather seen a salty run back out of the losers bracket for JDG in the rematch in the finals.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get our salutes in the chat, everyone, for the team that dreamed to be golden and fell just a little bit short, and we probably won't see them again. Give me some 07s. Thank you very much. Cheers to JDG, the team that dreamed. Okay, that was Devoured, brought to you by Trolley. Make sure to get your tongue-twisting, mind-warping sour thrills over at trolley.com and wherever candy and food is sold, because they're everywhere, guys.
They're everywhere.
So make sure to continue to send it on over. Yes.
Worldwide.
All right. Last but not least, it's time to look forward. One more series left in the 2023 calendar year, and that's the topic of our Galaxy Brain Club. It's the finals preview between T1 and WEIBO Gaming. All right, Monty, let's start with you. Where are we going with this one? T1 saving League of Legends.
It has
WEIBO,
to be
though?
T1. This is Faker's. This is Faker's 4th title. I think it's, in spite of what we've seen from WEIBO, as much as a miracle as it has been to get here, I think JDG is a significantly better team than WEIBO. Yeah, I know you guys say, oh yeah, WEIBO, they beat JDG in some meaningless best of 3s during the LPL regular season. But
after JDG had just won MSI and came back like 4 days later with no practice.
Yeah. And
on the patch.
They also beat them in one of the first series in spring, but also Ruler looked very weird in that series. He kind of ran it down. Anyway, I just don't think that this iteration of WEIBO has shown the level of performance as we've seen from either T1 or JDG. We touched on it earlier, but Xiaohu didn't do a whole lot in the semifinals to really increase my confidence in his level of play, even though, Faker at least had some really big plays, even though he doesn't have a champion pool. By the way, has any mid laner ever won Worlds only playing 3 champions for the entirety of Worlds? I bet you not. I bet no player has done that. So another
3 champions is tiny. It's tiny.
So that would be a pretty wild feat in and of itself. I think if you look at the Shy's form, like certainly that was a really good performance, but Bin was surprisingly bad in that series compared to his dominant self that we had seen for a lot of worlds thus far. And I think Zeus, he's looked good, but there's also Zeus pulled a Houdini-esque disappearing act in the World Finals last year and allowed Kingen to become World Finals MVP. You can never count on this T1 team when they get into the finals, is what you have to say. Like, they are choke artists. So there is a possibility on that front that WEIBO can come back. But dare I say, it feels different this time. The meta just seems to have fallen right into their lap. They're dictating the pace of the meta. They look super good. They're even now stealing. My question is, would Keria even have played Bard if they hadn't lost to Bard in Game 5 of the World Finals last year? Like, it feels like he learned a lot from that match and is now pulling it out in very key moments when we have seen a little, but not a lot of Bard so far at Worlds. I think this team is primed. They seem to be not in their own heads right now. I think that they just look, pretty substantially better. You don't let Crisp have Renata Glask, and Crisp will just auto lose games for WEIBO. Like, that Heimerdinger game was just fucking shameful from him. They looked shaky. Xiaohu, now the other side is I would love Xiaohu to win because Xiaohu is, I think, definitely the best player who's never won the world championship at this point in time, now that Deft won last year. So there is a nice storyline there. But outside of that, I think it seems like a very tough road.
Dom, you've said earlier it's lose-lose. What is your outlook on this finals, and how do you go about picking this one?
I mean, I just don't see a way that DRX can win this. Like, with Beryl and Deft playing into Guma Keria, like, they're just going to get outlaned every single game. I think Owner is just significantly better than Pioshik at this tournament. So, I mean, I'm just expecting a T1 3-0.
It's another fourth seed. That's the thing. It's the
Wait,
curse of the
wrong?
fourth seed.
Yes, wrong tournament, guys. Wrong tournament. My bad. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing, though, right? Like, is that not the same feeling that you have going into this?
Of course it is.
It should just be Guma and Keria outlaning Light and Crisp. It should just be like, I mean, jungle is a little bit different. I would say that maybe it's more of like a mid lane, top lane thing now. But yeah, I mean, it feels like T1 should just be better in this meta.
I mean, I guess the difference is the hot player going into the finals for the challenger team, or the team, I guess the underdog, not the challenger team. The underdog is that instead of it being mid lane with Zeka, it's the top lane with the Shy coming on into it, who's a more known quantity. You kind of know what he's going into, but he's the one that's coming into form. And kind of given the state of how top lane went today, it didn't feel as important as, the other lanes. So around mid lane, around support, around jungle, honestly. Also,
wasn't that great
fans
game,
are asking.
but other than that.
Yes, sorry. Other than that. Because he tried the Quinn, that one didn't work as well, right? It was just like, they were saying on the broadcast, like, it works well like into the Jax, until Jax starts building cooldown, and then the cooldown that Jax builds is way shorter than the blind, and then therefore you lose the advantage that Quinn originally makes, or something like that. And also to a point that we all made earlier, like, it's only 3 champions. Someone said Crown. They threw out Crown. Crown played 6 unique champions, so it is a tiny pool that Faker is working with.
It's Faker's greatest hits, though, Azir and Orianna.
Yeah. I mean, T1 making finals is greatest hits. We never get tired of this song. Well, I guess most fans don't get tired of this song, so works out. I guess I'm not tired of it. It's pretty cool. Okay, pick time.
I'm just gonna put this out there for you guys. Korea has never lost a world championship while I've lived in Korea, and I'm living in Korea again. So consider that.
Yeah. Yeah. Just add that on to all the useless stats that LOL Esports just put on.
I would like to believe that I am a magical totem for Korea winning worlds. Stop.
The Shy has never lost the finals that he's played in. Worlds. Crazy, guys. Who knows? Something's gonna break.
That's true.
Has to break. I think Discord is
It's just you.
Is it?
Dom.
Or,
It's just you.
okay, I was just checking. Yeah. Again,
You two, Dgon, or mine?
it's
Yeah,
just it's just you,
you.
Tom.
Yeah,
I was just checking to see, making sure that KT wasn't letting me down again, but no, KT's been pretty good.
What do you think about T1 Cadrill up? He's supporting WEIBO.
Did they kick him out? That's hilarious.
Yeah. He's a WEIBO fan, so they're kicking him out for 5 days to stream somewhere else.
That's good. I was wondering about that because I felt like he was picking multiple teams at the same time, right? I started cheering for T1 after NRG got knocked out, so
yeah,
whatever.
Okay, they're picking him out. All right.
Are they really?
Let's see.
That would be. I think it's just a joke for now, but I'm sure they'll let him keep streaming there. Yeah, I think they will.
Really? Oh, okay. Because I think it's not a joke.
Really?
Maybe I'm getting.
He
said it's not a joke or a meme. It'd be very weird. He says, no, it's not a joke or a meme. Appreciate people reaching out. We'll have to find somewhere else. No, I don't have co-streaming spot for finals venues. Sadly, wasn't invited. So trying to fix up a setup for Sunday. T1 said I can stay until finals and really appreciate their help and completely understand their perspective. Like, that doesn't sound like a meme to me.
Well, yeah,
doesn't sound
I do think that the PR of him actively cheering for WEIBO against T1 within their own facility is probably not great. So I guess I have
agree.
some appreciation for that.
Yeah. Well, good luck to Cadrill trying to find a spot after doing exactly what Monty just said.
I'm sure after he's going to really have a hard time in a country where everywhere is gigabit internet, and he had 150,000 concurrent viewers in that last WEIBO match. Surely he doesn't have the resources or connections in order to find a place to stream. The heart breaks.
I wonder if there's.
Well, the thing is, the World Finals is happening tomorrow, so there's not much time, guys. The tournament happens quickly. There isn't 6 days to just fucking edge yourself. Coming up.
Where will he find a computer that could do basic video encoding? I don't know. Seems difficult.
I don't know.
In South Korea, seems very difficult.
Yeah, again, I have no idea how he would be able to do this with just a janky setup here. No, he'll be fine.
In the basement of a stadium.
Yeah. Again, Busan, lovely city.
Also, as far as I can tell, LS just runs a homeless shelter for pro players, so maybe he can go there.
Wait, well, how is the venue? Because I heard people complaining about the venue, saying because for me, on the stream, it doesn't feel like a semifinals. Like, I would think that semifinals. How is semifinals at a smaller location than LCS championship, for example? Isn't this supposed to be a fucking huge arena already? It seems like it's a small venue. They're not even selling most of the tickets. It seemed a little off.
So what I would say is that the venue is actually big. It was pretty big. They set up the stage up against one side of the because LCS generally does it in the middle of the stadium. They did that on one side of the stage. I don't know what goes into that. I partially think it's because Busan isn't it's a major city, but there are people everywhere in Seoul that were there for the matches. It really drove it in Seoul. And I think if you get a match like what we had earlier, where there isn't an LCK team, I think it's less popular there, and so therefore it looks way worse if you had a whole open stadium seating area. Because remember, I brought up this with someone in spring finals over in Raleigh. I think after the semifinals match, they brought out Cloud9 to do a face-off with FlyQuest. And by that point, the fans had kind of left the stadium already, but there was a couple fans there, and it looked super empty with trickles of fans in places. And so although the stadium was full at one point, it looked very empty. So I think it's the same kind of thing here where it was well, we could do it in the middle, but it requires another screen because they had 3 massive screens instead of 4. And then 2, it would have I think made it look smaller than what it actually was. It was very big. It was the loudest crowd I've ever been a part of, including when the LCS finals in Houston, which was super loud because the T1 fans were so rabid. However, I think because they had that stadium set up, it was a little different. You sell I think 2/3 of what the stadium capacity is. But it was very full on LCK days. But yesterday, it was not as full. I'd say it was about half full. So we'll see how they set up the Sky Stadium. And the other thing, and Monty can attest to this, the Sky Stadium game, the finals, is a cultural event. I don't think it's just league fans that are going. You will have celebrities there. You have people that want to go for new jeans. Like, it is a hot ticket that people are talking about that is like more normalized than like a semifinals in Busan. So yeah,
maybe I don't really know, honestly, but I can't imagine that it's not going to be full. Like, people just want to be there to experience it. So
yeah, I think it's a little different that way.
Is New Jeans going to be there? I heard that they were going to be in Vegas next weekend or something like that for some awards show. Are they confirmed to be there? Because this is anecdotal evidence. I was listening to a radio station in English here in Korea, and they were talking about New Jeans being in Vegas next weekend. So maybe they'll come back in time. I have no idea. I'm not saying they're not going to be there, but I was surprised to hear that that was the case. People say they're confirmed. So there we go.
Okay, people say they're confirmed. Good. I'm looking real quick at information that I got to make sure it's not what you call it? What is it called? Embargoed, so I don't get in trouble because I did release embargoed information once. After asking, I asked, and they said it was okay, and then they're like, "That's embargoed." I was like, "You said it was okay." I got a whole thing. All right, let me look. Okay, no, something else is embargoed. Nice. So New Jeans is performing, and they will be at like this media thing that I'm going to on Wednesday. So they're here Wednesday. Maybe they fly out and then come back, but they're physically going to be at this thing. So
there we go.
So I assume they're going to physically be at the finals, and I assume, like, why would you pay them all the money and bring them here if you did like a virtual performance that wasn't, like COVID rules or something? So hopefully they'll be there and it'll be huge. But anyways, I think that makes World Finals like a whole.
That's a very fun assumption you have about Riot decision making, which never makes sense. So I don't know. Like you're saying, why would you sign New Jeans and not have them perform at your World Finals? I counter that with they scheduled the first MSI in Tallahassee without realizing that the colleges had already gone on break for the summer. So who knows why they do things or why they don't do things.
Tallahassee is where Florida State is for our European friends. It's a big university in North America. And it would have probably, Monty, it would have probably been a really cool raucous crowd. But
yeah, instead it was empty and I was in Tallahassee for no reason. So, when you schedule the finals for things, Riot, you never know who's going to show or not show up, it turns out. Sorry if you're from Tallahassee, but I don't think there's a reason to be in Tallahassee unless you're doing something for Florida State or around Florida State. So, okay. Well, there you have it. Time for experience. But for you all at home, make sure to play responsibly. Don't listen to Dom and his advice right now when he's betting 500 million. Unless you really want the hype of the 7.5 odds.
Look, I will say that based off my mentions, a lot of people predicted WEIBO versus T1 finals before the tournament. Those would be really good things to bet on. If you predicted WEIBO versus T1 finals before the tournament even started, you're going to make a fuck ton of money. And if you already know that it's going to happen, you're not even gambling at that point.
I think at the start of the bracket last year, DRX's odds were like 40-1 or something like that to win Worlds at the start of the quarterfinals. Whoever made that bet. That was the king. I
wonder what it was at the beginning of the tournament.
Yeah, it was. I'm
probably
sure
like
it was
150 to 1 odds.
It was crazy. I'm sure because they were in play-ins. Oh man.
Check in. Do you remember the biggest odds in I think sports betting recently? It was Leicester City in the Premier League.
Oh yes.
Leicester City odds winning in 2015 or whatever it was. I think it was 1,000-1.
I mean,
oh my God! It was 5,000-1.
That's so insane.
Yeah, and some guy I think put like $100 down or some shit like that, and he repaid.
Amazing.
Okay.
Amazing.
Yeah. Anyways, take flyers, but make sure to play smart, play within your rules, and your bankroll and your budget, as Dom has talked about extensively beforehand. Thanks to our friends over at Esports Bet. There you have it, guys. That is The semifinals done and dusted. Busan has been great. Winter is here. It is.
Yeah, it got really cold in Korea,
super
like
cold.
really suddenly.
I'm trying to. It was literally like one day I was wearing a shirt, the next day I wore a t-shirt and it was freezing. So Busan, Korea doesn't play when it's like when it's wintertime. It's wintertime. Put up the Christmas trees or whatever the heck you believe in, and the lights come out. So, all right, Dom. You know what? It's been a shitty week, but that means next week can't be a shitty. Where can people find you with your less shitty week?
I am gone for a week. I am just traveling, so you will not see me until I'm not gonna post one thing on social media, not a YouTube video. I'm not gonna even respond to you motherfuckers on Discord to schedule the show. I'm going to do nothing for the next week at all because I don't know. I just felt like it was time to just take a little bit of vacation, and then I'll be back for World Finals.
Well, us motherfuckers still got to make some content. So, Monty, where are you going to be at?
I'll be doing a VOD review,
content.
VOD reviews on my stream, or at least of the semifinal that happened today. This was actually the only one I've actually seen from start to finish live, so I won't be going in as blind as I normally do. And then we're going to do some off-season stuff. Might do some like classic VOD reviews here and there. I'll be streaming a lot probably during the off-season, continuing to do content. Summoning Insight will be happening tomorrow. I think Doa and I are going to spend the off-season doing like a Baldur's Gate 3 run. So check out my stream if you want that. I'll be doing non-esports content as well. I'll be hanging out with Dgon this week. Drinks with Dgon. That's my plan.
Yeah. Drinks with Monty to celebrate his birthday because he's been so selflessly not celebrating his birthday because Worlds has been happening. So we're going to go do that with some of the OG LCK and Korea guys that'll be here. So that'll be fun. I'll have my owner interview up probably in the next, like 10 hours, hopefully. Be able to turn it around then. They have media day on Wednesday, so Needham and everyone else will be coming on out to talk about League. Nas will be there, so we'll see what the future of League has in store. New Jeans will also be there, so I'll be either live streaming that or making a cut down of that. There's also the World Celebration, which is happening the 3 days before Worlds. I'm going to that, so I'll make some content out of that. And yeah, lots of people are in town, Monty. So I've got some visiting to do, and people do want to see you. So hopefully we'll be able to get a picture or two out of that. And for all of our friends at home, make sure to like and subscribe our channel. Thank you so much for watching. And we will see you guys after we have our champion crowned. Will it be the return of the Shy in WEIBO Gaming, or will it be the fourth in a row for the greatest of all time? We'll find out. See you later.